My name is
Jenny.
David.
Lila.
Laurel.
Jen.
Lisa.
Dino.
Hari.
Kyle.
I was a
Jehovah's Witness.
Jehovah's Witness.
FLDS.
In the Amish church.
The chosen people.
I was a Scientologist.
I grew up a Mooney, a member of the Unification Church.
2x2.
And I am
Shunned.
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 Stunned.
Shunned.
My name is Jake. I am 26 years old. I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and I am shunned.
All right, Jake. So how'd you come to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses in the first place?
Yeah, I was born into it. On my mother's side, fourth generation. On my father's side, third generation.
Wow, so it goes way back. Do you have like an origin story in your family? Or was there some lore around it?
You know, I know there is lore around it because the family is very, very secretive on why we joined the Jehovah's Witnesses. I feel as if there's a lot of shame around our past life for some reason before being a Jehovah's Witness. So it's not really talked about too much. I know on my dad's side, I think it was more so he just met a girl who happened to be one of Jehovah's Witnesses and fell in love and became one of Jehovah's Witnesses for that reason. But on my mom's side, I remember asking, well, why did they come into the truth? Or like, how did they come into the truth? And I just remember her saying, like, we don't talk. We just are chosen. So, okay. So.
Well, I mean, a lot of people come in through some sort of vulnerable time. Something was going on. Someone was struggling with addiction, or there was abuse, or something like that in the family, or it's around war or relocation or dislocate. Be around medical things that happen. People lose people and death. Lots of things that kind of contribute to somebody being attracted to this, being one of Jehovah's Witnesses. So. Interesting that you don't know in a way too,
Right.
especially the way it's kind of referred to. So with it going back so deep or being so generational, that you feel that put a lot of pressure on you to continue the lineage, so to speak.
I would definitely say so, especially since the other members of my family didn't necessarily feel that pressure. On my dad's side, there are 4 siblings, and 3 of them were disfellowshipped. All of them were actually disfellowshipped at one point, but 3 of them were disfellowshipped for my whole life. And it's a situation where, sorry, what was the question? I kind of lost my train of thought.
Oh, you're fine. I just wondering if there was a lot of pressure on you.
Oh, yeah.
And you were just kind of sharing that it sounds like there were some people who didn't feel the pressure or who had left at different points.
Yeah, so on my dad's side, there were quite a few people who had left. On my mom's side, they were all pretty religious, but we were the only grandchildren in the family. So there was definitely a lot of pressure to conform to the religion. I feel as if, especially on my dad's side, my grandfather felt as if we were the only hope for the family, kind of in a way. So there was definitely a lot of pressure to conform to the religion from being born in.
Gotcha. And just having that Jehovah's Witnesses talk today about their great spiritual heritage and that lineage as well. If you are from a family that has many generations, I know that sometimes could be a thing of pride. Whatever the case may be. So this is all you ever knew. You were born into it. Do you have any early memories? Like, what was the worldview that it gave you as a kid growing up in it? How did it make you see the world around you or your place in it?
Yeah, it gave me a very limited worldview. It gave me a sense of self-importance, I'd say, self-superiority over people. Like I remember being in first grade, looking around at like all my classmates and thinking like, they're all gonna die and I'm gonna live forever. Like in a way, like I felt chosen. Like I was the chosen one in a way because I was born into it. And I remember thinking like we were so lucky to be born in, like we didn't have to spend time outside in the world and find our way to Jehovah, that we were just born into it. So that was definitely playing into it. But yeah, I'd say um, there were quite a few times. Again, I'm losing my train of thought. I'm so sorry.
No need to apologize. You're fine. So uh, I appreciate that you said that, like that self superiority. That's kind of an interesting thing. We felt special, a lot of us, in some way, being born in or raised one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm just talking about the worldview around it. How'd you feel? So you kind of felt a little bit superior. How'd you feel about like the people around you? Like, did you see them as, I don't know, inferior or deserving destruction because you're kind of being taught that? Or did you have any connection with the people around you where you're like, oh no, my little first grade friends are also going to be wiped out by my murderous God?
Yeah, there was definitely connection and kind of a tug of war inside of, well, these people are not of the faith, so it's like I guess they deserve it. But then it's like, but Johnny is a cool guy. Like he's just a kid who plays the saxophone. Like, like what is he doing to deserve destruction? So, like I remember thinking both, having kind of like both mindsets. So that superiority of thinking, oh, well, these people do kind of deserve it in a way, but then also thinking, but they're just human. And I think that kind of tug of war inside me just grew and grew and grew until I eventually woke up when I was a teenager.
Um, yeah, I mean, I often think that a lot of us that left were the ones where they couldn't quite stamp out our humanity. We still, on some level, maybe couldn't get past the lack of real love shown there, and um, I mean, I know myself, just even realizing, we're going out here and preaching to people and acting like we care about them, but the way we talked about worldly people was pretty awful.
Yeah.
And it just is like, well, now how can we talk about them with such disrespect and then claim we love them and we're trying to help them at the same time? It really didn't add up very well. Um, so for yourself, with that worldview, um, let's take that into your daily life, I guess, a little bit growing up as a JW. Let's go into like your school life first. So were you traditionally schooled, homeschooled? I know some witnesses do that. How did you end up broaching that?
Yeah. So for elementary school, I was traditionally schooled. I went to public school. Um, but always kind of separated myself as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. Like I remember being friendly with my classmates and I had friends in school, but obviously I didn't have friends outside of school. And then when I was a teenager, I was homeschooled for middle school. We did homeschooling. And then in high school, I did a transition high school. So I did a program where I went for an hour a week and then we do all our homework at home and we just come for an hour a week to check on the teacher. So it's like kind of homeschooling, but you have a point of contact. So I did that for high school. The main reason behind the homeschooling wasn't necessarily the religion itself. Like it wasn't our parents trying to save us from worldly influence. It was more so me being incredibly depressed being in the religion. We had moved to a new city when I was 11. We moved back to Washington. And I remember just not fitting in the school, not being able to make friends as easily because there was that guard up of me being a Jehovah's Witness and it's different from kindergarten to sixth grade, when in kindergarten you're a completely innocent little child. You know, you're just going to play with the kids around you regardless of what your parents have taught you. Whereas when you're in the sixth grade, you're starting to think for yourself a little bit more. You have more mental capacity. So you realize that these people that you're surrounding yourself with um, are people that you need to keep some sort of distance with. So I kept a distance from myself once we moved to a new school. And I just remember getting really depressed, and I asked my mom to homeschool me for middle school. And then in high school, I did go back for a semester to regular high school. But again, I was just too depressed. I found it hard to wake up every single morning at the same time. Um, so I wanted to do a transition school, but I always kind of um, positioned it through the lens of, oh, I can do more work for the society now. I could auxiliary pioneer. I could go out and service more. I could do whatever for the society, for the organization, now that I was homeschooled. So it wasn't necessarily because of the organization directly that I was homeschooled, but it was because like the effects that the organization had on me that led to me being homeschooled.
Well, yeah, and I mean, in a, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but in kind of a vicious cycle or circle there. So you're depressed, so you're asking to be homeschooled, but then also on the back of that saying, hey, but then I can give more to the organization if I do this. If the organization is already some part of why you're depressed, well, now you're just going to be spending more time in organizational activities, which is only going to further your depression, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would agree.
Okay. Um, yeah, that's a tough cycle. Uh, so hmm, I gotta ask, just because you mentioned it, you went back for a semester in high school. How was that? Was that really tough? Because I mean, now you're going back, coming out of the, I don't know, out of the shadows back into school for a minute. That must have been really tough.
Yeah, it was definitely jarring to
Yeah,
go from being
jarring. Yeah.
homeschooled to all of a sudden in a full high school situation. And I didn't know how to act. I didn't know how to take care of myself. It was just so foreign to me, which is odd because it's like the one place where everybody goes, and it's the one experience that we all share is school, essentially. But like school was just such a foreign thing to me at that time. Like it just, I don't know, it just didn't feel natural in a way.
Well, it wouldn't be. I mean,
Yeah.
I know I went to school with a lot of people who it was natural for, and I was very outcast and very on the outside. Again, as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, is I don't know, many different reasons I was bullied, making good grades and being poor and lots of things. So skinny. There were lots of reasons to pick on me, and certainly the organization didn't help that at all by teaching me to push everybody away and to not really enter those frays with any friends. So yeah, I think it's tough for a lot of people, even though it's a very normal human experience. Um, so let's talk about growing up in your home, growing up. So what was life like? What was the temperature of the room? Did you grow up pretty happy family? Was it a tough family? What was it like for you? Did you have siblings?
Yeah, I have a younger brother. Growing up was definitely very disjointed, very dysregulated, very abusive. Um, we lived in a household where my father was an alcoholic. So basically, a month before I was born, my dad's mom and my mom's dad both suddenly died of cancer. So they were dealing with like their grief while having me. And they had lost a baby a few years before they had me, so they are also dealing with that grief. So my dad was just not in a good place, and he turned to alcohol to cope, which led to him being disfellowshipped when I was 4. So he was disfellowshipped my entire life. He was reinstated, ironically, 4 months before I was disfellowshipped.
Oh, wow.
He eventually came back, but yeah, it was definitely a very abusive household. My earliest memories are of just seeing my father just beat my mother, and just abuse her physically and verbally. Eh, yeah. Um, my dad was in and out of jail, my growing up, for DUIs. Um, it was definitely really dysregulated and disjointed for sure. Despite what Jehovah's Witnesses like to say about their members and their families and how they are, it was very much so. Like looking from the outside in, you could have thought it was a worldly family just because we were so abusive.
Well, yeah, they're just the end of the day, Jehovah's Witnesses are just people, and everything that exists
Yeah.
in the realm of family dynamics exists inside of Jehovah's Witnesses too. I mean, they proclaim to be the happiest families on earth, but I would say not. There's unfortunately a lot of abuse, and then the pressures of being in a cult tends to intensify a lot of those things for a lot of people. So I'm sorry that that was so prevalent in your home. I mean, alcoholism is often referred to as a family disease. It affects everyone, and uh, yeah, I think there might be more. Even I think we're seeing more reasons you may have been depressed as a young man growing up, trying
Mhm.
to figure out this world, navigate it. If you're feeling stuck in your life after cult involvement and can't find the life you want, leaving a cult is a new beginning on a path to healing, not some magical end itself that is healing. Relief from the immediate pain feels good at first, but that's not necessarily true happiness. The feelings of social awkwardness and isolation, lack of self worth, perfectionism, patterns of being attracted to emotionally unavailable people, not even knowing who you are yourself. All of these things and more are lingering effects of that environment. Being in a cult isn't just following a doctrine, but it's following a culture, a way of life, a way of being that doesn't just go away because you stopped attending meetings. If you want to shortcut the path to healing instead of trying to figure it out on your own, maybe even work with me professionally in my cult recovery coaching practice, you can find opportunities to do that and also for other cool resources at my website, exjwhelp.com. That's exjwhelp.com.
Yeah, no, it definitely, I would say, led to my depression, and it led to a lot of isolation too, because he was just fellowship. So, obviously we're not allowed to have friends outside the congregation, but even within the congregation, we weren't allowed to have people over or have normal relationships with people. So it was very isolating.
Yeah. Did you feel like people looked at you a certain way because your dad was disfellowshipped? Did you feel like you were treated any differently for better or for worse?
You know, yes and no. But I would say mainly no, because my mother really, really, really tried her hardest to um, make it not be an issue for us. Like she was such a spiritual person and so spiritually motivated, and so involved in the congregation that I feel as if everything she did kind of made up for the lack of a father figure. Um, so ultimately, I'd say she really stepped up to the plate and took care of us, took care of us spiritually and everything. to the point where I didn't necessarily feel a lot of shame in the congregation because of it. So
I'm glad that people didn't pile on, because
yeah,
sometimes the kids end up paying the price for the parents who gets disfellowshipped and isn't even at the meetings or whatever, and the kids are treated some sort of way, like they're somehow pariahs because of what mom or dad did or whatever the case may be. So, like bad association or potential bad association. So I'm glad that it sounds like that didn't at least trickle down to you.
yeah, no, I wouldn't say so.
Uh, did you all have, so it sounds like your home was pretty intense. Uh, did you have good times? Did you have things that you look back on and I don't know, did you all interact in some fun ways at all?
Um, I mean, yeah, we would go camping. We'd play games as a family. A lot of strategic or like number games involving math. My dad was a very like math heavy person. Um, so I mean, there were some good times, um, but it's definitely tainted by the bad times for sure.
Of course, of course. Um, the good does not erase the bad, does it?
Yeah, no, unfortunately.
Uh, well, how did this? So we talked briefly about the congregation. So how did this? What was your life like growing up in the Kingdom Hall? How'd you feel about the meetings, going out in service? What was your experience there?
Yeah, I mean, it was my full life, honestly, growing up in the Kingdom Hall. It was everything we did. We spent, you know, the two midweek meetings at the Kingdom Hall, and then we spent Sundays there, and we would go out in service every Saturday. We were really heavily involved in every aspect of the hall. I would help the local presiding elder or whatever change like the yearly text sign every year. That was like a special thing that I got to do as a kid.
Mm.
So I mean, we were really, really involved in the congregation, and I really took it to heart. Like it was really like my life. Um, I believed it full heartedly. There was no reason not to believe it, in my opinion, at that time. So yeah, it was definitely everything.
It it's always interesting to me when I'm talking with someone and they have, let's say, a parent who is suffering with an addiction. Your father had one, but the rest of you all also kind of had one too. It was
Yeah.
just the organization. It became your everything. It became the escape from reality. It became the sole focus of existence. It's what you have to have every day, or most days. So it just really kind of envelops a person's entire life and becomes their identity in a lot of ways. Um, and it's just interesting how life works at times. Um, so you guys had this other thing that you were super involved in. Was your dad involved at all in the meetings? Did he continue to show up even though he was disfellowshipped, or was he out?
No, no, he was out. Yeah, as a teenager, he started to make some moves and started to come to some meetings. But as a child, he was definitely out.
Okay. So it was the three of you, your brother, and your mom.
Yep, that's three.
Okay. So being so heavily involved, were there parts of it that you said, like changing the sign was kind of a special thing you got to do? Did you like giving talks or going out in service? I mean, did you enjoy that life that was so pervasive?
I would say I definitely enjoyed it for a while. The ministry was probably my favorite part, just because it felt like hanging out with people, but going door to door at the same time. So I really enjoyed the ministry my entire childhood, up until I was a teenager and until I officially woke up. The meetings I always found a little boring, not gonna lie. And especially as I started to wake up, the meetings just became unbearable to sit through. But no, I would say I really enjoyed everything for the most part as a child. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Everybody has their different experience, and I get a lot of people who hated every second of it. Like you, there were parts of it. I mean, it was my life, and there were things that I enjoyed, and I know a lot of people hated the field ministry and stuff, but yeah, I kind of liked it too. I could hang out with people, especially as I got to be maybe a later teen for me because I had the car and I'd take my friends out and we'd go hang out. Yeah, we'd do some door to door, whatever. But mostly it was just hanging out, and that it was fun to be able to get out around other people, and especially when you're so isolated otherwise.
Exactly.
Did you have a lot of friends at the Kingdom Hall? Did you have other people, peers, or older ones, or whatever that you would hang out with outside of the congregation?
So growing up when we lived in North Dakota, I would say I did have a number of friends in the congregation. There was nobody necessarily my age except for a girl who we were actually like really close friends. But since she was a girl, I wasn't necessarily allowed to be as close of friends with her as I wish I could have been. Um, and then when we moved to Washington when I was a teenager, um, there was really nobody my age in the congregation, so I didn't really have anybody. And I would mainly get along with like the older sisters, as I did a lot of ministry work during the week when like the man of the household is at work and the elders are at work and all their wives are out going door to door. So I did a lot of that. Um, but yeah.
So sounds like that move to Washington was pretty tough in some ways. So how old were you when you moved to Washington? It was from North Dakota, right? So is that okay?
Yep. I was 11.
11. Okay. Um, About to go into being a teenager. Lots of things are changing, and that's a pretty big move. Um, so, are there any seminal moments from, I guess, the North Dakota period of your life that we haven't talked about that you'd like to share?
Um, hmm. I mean, the one thing I guess I would say is um, one of the elders in North Dakota who I was really close to um, was a little inappropriate with me looking back at it. He was the elder that I would change the sign with every year. There was definitely some like inappropriate touching and inappropriate just behavior that I didn't grasp as a child until I was looking back and talking to it, rather talking about it with my friend who I wasn't allowed to be friends with at the time back then. But she also left and we're close now. Um, and she's like, yeah, that was creepy. And I was like, oh, it was actually, now that I think about it, like it was one of those things that in like hindsight, I realized it was inappropriate. But back then I didn't think anything of it at the time. Um, so yeah, that's kind of the only other like really pivotal thing about living in North Dakota at the time was that.
I'm really sorry that that happened to you. It's there's just so many stories, and I think that there are things that they set up, like the whole was a scripture something about, I don't remember, taking care of the fatherless boys. Obviously, you had a father, but he wasn't at the meetings, and I think sometimes those things get exploited, and there are people who, under the guise of helping, some young person in the Kingdom Hall, end up taking advantage of those situations, and um, especially when it's an elder, you think they're the height of spirituality. They're the people that you look up to. So they couldn't be the one, doing something like this, right? Did you ever try to tell anybody when you were younger, or did you even have the words or understanding to do that?
No, I didn't have the vocabulary or understanding really until I grew up and looked back at it and was like, oh, that was an issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm so sorry. And I don't know if you ever did tell anybody or if there's any way to warn anyone there, but it's a shame the way that happens in the organization. I don't even know if this person's still alive, but it's just again, I'm sorry that was part of your life and probably others. Um, there. So um, so then you moved on to Washington when you were 11. Uh, when did or did you get baptized in this story? Like, how were you, or did that happen?
Yeah, so I got baptized at 12. So a
Oh,
year after we moved to Washington, I decided to make the truth my own and take the plunge. And it was more so just because I wanted extra responsibilities in the congregation. Like I thought it'd be cool to like run mics and do things like that. Um, and I believed it. Like I did fully believe it,
sure, of
but
course.
it's not like I had such a hankering to like, oh, I have to get baptized. It was more so of a, I believe it, and I can get these perks, so why not get baptized? Type of thing. So
It is kind of funny what we saw as perks back then.
right,
I have to smile while you're saying that. It's literally being used, as they would say in the congregation. It's just more free labor. It's
yeah,
the privilege of handling mics. Running around with microphones. It was at least better than listening to the boring meetings.
yeah, it was something to do.
Yeah, something to do. Um, So, do you remember your baptism at all? Was there anything noteworthy around that?
Yeah, I remember my baptism. I wouldn't say there's anything noteworthy necessarily. My brother at the time was doing a drama. He was in the drama for that year's convention, so that was kind of exciting.
Yeah.
Um, so lots of family came and visited and everything. But yeah, no, I mean, it was pretty par for the course as baptisms are concerned. I mean, um, I was 12 at the time, so a little young to make a decision like that would affect the rest of my life. But, looking back, it's what I wanted. So,
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, you had no other choice, so it was going to be what you would want, right? That's
exactly.
what you only have one choice put before you. Well, yeah, I guess I want that.
Yeah,
I'm hungry, and that's food. So I guess at this point, as long as it's not pickles, right? Shout out to the back
exactly.
room. But it's food, and I'm hungry. I'm gonna eat it probably. If it's all the only thing there. It's Did you have any? I don't know. Do you have any hopes growing up and getting baptized? Did you think it would be special? Was it special in any way? Did you get? It's kind of like I always referred to it as like the one JW birthday that you get. You're
Right.
born as a JW officially, and sometimes people get to go out to dinner or pick where they go, or they get some presents or something. Did anything happen? Did the spirit come down like a dove? Did anything happen for you?
Definitely was not moved in any way like I thought I would be. It was simply a dunk in a water tank, and I got out, and that was it. I mean, it felt special because like it was for me back then, but
Sure.
like it wasn't as like transformative as like you think it would be or whatever. And the only like special thing that came about it was my grandparents got me a Bible with the reasoning book bound in the back of it. So that was my baptism gift that I got. But um, yeah, nothing like no dove came down from heaven or anything like that. Nothing crazy. So yeah, I was pretty much just getting dumped.
You're missing out. The rest of us got doves.
Yeah.
It was just you.
Damn.
That's yeah, it is interesting. Sometimes I think, as kids we think it's gonna be kind of magical, special. We romanticize it, I think, on some level. Why would we not? That's what they're kind of telling us. And you don't, it's the right step. Like you said, you believed it at the time. I did too. It just for you was it? I know for me it was just like, well, it's the next step. It's the next thing
Mhm.
it's what you do, right? Like you get to a certain point, it's the truth. So in fact, you kind of have to do this. You're going to be held accountable anyway. So with the whole age of accountability thing, so why not at 12 go ahead and make that decision?
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty wild if you ever go out and look at like you're at a park. I don't know. There's a 12-year-old running by. Observe that 12-year-old. It's like, wow, that was me. I was making
Right.
this decision at that age.
Making a decision that would eventually cost me my whole family, it's like, oh shit, like ooh, I was
Yeah.
a little young, but
Yeah, not very fair. It's you
yeah.
can't buy a car, drive, get married, sign a contract on a cell phone. It's 12, but you can sign a forever contract with an organization, a legal entity. Kind of an interesting thing.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up.
So, then did you get your privileges? Did you after that happened, were you treated any different in the congregation? Did you get to handle mics? Were you asked to say the opening prayer or something at the next book study? Or, did you have anything like that occurred?
Yeah, I did mics, I did the sound booth. A lot of the times during the week, I was the only brother there for the meetings before field service, so I would run those. I had quite a few privileges looking back. And looking back, it was also kind of awkward, some of the privileges I was given because I was so young at the time.
Mhm.
Like looking back at the field service meetings, there would be these elders' wives who have decades of experience doing this. And here I am at 12 years old, just like walking up there being like, let's go out to field service. Like, it's just so baffling looking back that the religion values a man's word that much more than a woman's word who has decades of experience. Like it was just crazy. It's honestly crazy to me. Just looking back at some of the privileges that I got that weren't afforded to women at the same time.
Yeah, I've often talked about that on here, and including through my experience, which kind of echoes yours. I mean, for one, it's humiliating for those sisters, and we
Yeah.
usually focus on that. But also, it doesn't feel great at 12 to sit in front of a bunch of grown women and to tell them what to do. And I mean, I don't know about your experiences, but I also had a lot of women who, and I understand why they were frustrated about it. But sometimes they took that out on me. I was just a kid doing the thing that y'all set up. Like, well, not that they
Hmm.
set up. I mean, it's the whole thing, but they're supposed to reinforce, right? And it was it's just an awkward situation for everyone. You're 12, you can't even drive, and you're telling these sisters where to go and who to go with, or it's just it's madness. Just because
Yeah,
you're a boy in the congregation and baptized, it puts everyone in a terrible position.
yeah, no, it's definitely wild looking back at it.
I hated it. I hated it so much.
Oh, me too. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't mind giving like parts of the congregation normally, like that was fine. But like running the service meetings, like back then, just like even then, I felt so like it's just weird me doing it versus them. But whatever,
Yeah. It's like I don't even know where these streets are that we're talking about. I don't
right?
even, I've never driven to any of these. So it's just ride with you. So I'll tell you all what to do, and then you can drive me there apparently because I'm a kid.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's one privilege at least that did not pan out the way you thought, huh?
Yeah, no kidding.
Did you get to handle the mics?
Yep, I did the mics. I did the sound booth. I really liked doing the mics in the sound booth. It was something to do, and I felt like it was important. So yeah.
Sure. So how did we talked a little bit, obviously school was changing and things like that, but how was your life changing? So, you get baptized at 12. How do we progress through your teenage years?
Yeah, so I get baptized at 12. And then from then on, I'm homeschooled through middle school. So I spend a lot of my time out in the ministry, out in the week, during the week. I would auxiliary pioneer regularly a lot. I would give parts and everything. And that was pretty consistent and steady up until I was about 15, 16. And then I got a job at Starbucks, working there part time. And that's when I started to slowly wake up and slowly like reprioritize things in my life. Like the ministry was no longer my priority because I had a job and I had school. I was in high school. So, I had other things I had to worry about. So I stopped going out to the ministry as much as I was doing. And people were concerned. They would reach out to me and ask, what's going on? And I'd be like, oh, I'm just busy. But I still fully believed it at that time. And then I started to slowly wake up more and more. I was exposed to worldly people and realized that they're not terrible at all, that they're actually just other people trying to survive as well. Um, so eventually it led to a point where I was working full time. I was in high school. I was still one of Jehovah's Witnesses, still believed it, but just was not as active as I once was. And then I remember a part one Sunday I was running the mics, and I remember giving the mic to this lady, and she said something to the lines of, we should never Google the organization because what you find out there is terrible. We should just trust what's inside the organization. And, if you want to get to know somebody, you wouldn't go to somebody else to ask them questions about them. You'd go to them directly to ask questions about them. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, that is the biggest load of bullshit I've ever heard. Like, I'm like, if I want to know something about an organization, I am going to go to outside sources. I am not going to just trust what that organization is telling me. I'm going to do my research. So that night, I went home and I was like, you know what? I'm going to Google the organization. So I Googled Jehovah's Witnesses, and what I found was shocking, honestly. Like, I knew I would find apostate content, but I didn't realize I'd find news articles like backing up apostate content. Like, to me, apostate content was just made up crap that they would post online to try to sway people away from the religion that had no actual like validity and truth. And then to see, this was around the time the Australian Royal Commission was doing their a whole investigation into a whole child sex abuse cases. And to see all the news coverage on that, I was just gobsmacked that this religion that we took so much pride in, and like so much pride in the fact that we would talk so much crap on Catholics for being the religion that would hide pedophiles. Like I remember going out in service, and the sisters would just talk so much smack about Catholics and how crazy they are. And I'm like, we're actually no different, if not worse. Like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. So from then on, I started slowly waking up and slowly started putting like pieces together, because even though the organization did something terrible, I still had this doctrine that I believed, and had to disprove, just because they were hiding something that wasn't, okay at all, doesn't mean that their doctrine is false necessarily. So then I had to disprove the doctrine, and that's when I got into like the fall of Babylon, the 607 versus 587 BCE, and how that screws up the whole 1914 thing. So from then on, my relationship with the truth became very distant. I stopped going to meetings. I stopped going out in service. Even though I lived at home and my parents would force me to go most of the time, I would find ways out of it. Like I'd try to get work scheduled, or say I had a lot of homework, or I was sick, or I had orchestra practice in the evenings a lot of the time. So sometimes during the school year, I would have to go to the neighboring congregation's midweek meeting because it was on a different day, and I would just not go, and pretend like I went and not go. So around the time like I was 16, 17, I started to wake up, and that was also around the time when I started to realize I was gay. And I mean, I always knew I was gay, but that's when I finally realized like what it meant to me, and that it would be something that would affect my time as a Jehovah's Witness, and that it would have real world consequences if I were to come out. So I'd say like it went from 12, 13, 14, 15 being like pretty gung-ho, all chips in on the religion, to 16 starting to slowly unravel a little bit, recognize maybe certain things aren't true, to like 17, 18 being like, okay, yeah, this is full on, like I'm in a cult. So yeah.
That's really it's really tough. And you mentioned some things there. The Watchtower has a lot of hooks in people. It's some of it, you have to pull out the hook that's about the culture of the organization sometimes, or it's the friends and family, or it's the doctrine, or it's the behavior of the witnesses, or it's things that you find out that they're doing as an organization. There's just so many different things to break down for people a lot of times, and to have to do that, I had to do it in my 30s. You were 16, 17, 18, breaking all of this down. I see a lot of kids come on to, let's say, like the exjw subreddit. I've actually worked with some young folks before in my coaching practice as well. What's it like? I don't want to put words in your mouth. What was it like for you being that young, kind of powerless to some degree? You might have to go to some meetings at least. It sounds like you were good at making excuses and getting out of some things. But what's it like to still be attached to this thing at such a young age, to realize, uh-oh, this is not what I thought it was at all. And there's still like familial pressure, generations of it even. Like, what's that like? What's the experience of that like?
It was like pulling teeth, honestly. Like it was just like once I realized it wasn't the truth and it was a load of bullcrap, just every meeting, every interaction with Jehovah's Witness was just so difficult to get through without just completely being like, screw this, I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to be here. Like I remember going to conventions and sitting through conventions and just rolling my eyes like every 5 minutes, just being like, this is stupid. Like this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I was so angsty at the time. Like I just remember there was a talk at my last convention I ever went to about disfellowshipping, and there was a video of this girl who left, and she kept on calling her parents, even though she was just fellowshipped, but she just wanted to hear like the voicemail. She just wanted to hear her parents' voice and everything. And I remember that video had like such an effect on me because I recognized that I was going to be that person someday. And it's just the way that you view the literature or the presentations or the videos being presented to you is such it's a lot more critical. And it's definitely it's almost as if you're viewing it as a total outsider for the first time, just because you have such a whole new perspective on the religion. So yeah, it was definitely like pulling teeth. Every interaction I had with Jehovah's Witnesses, going to a door felt like such a phony thing. Like I turned in 0 hours mainly for most months, but I would still have to go every once in a while. And I just remember feeling like this is the biggest waste of time. Yeah, it was definitely very, very hard to continue to try to keep up like a fake facade of, oh yeah, this is fine, I believe in it, haha. When on the inside, I'm like, this is a cult, and I need to get out ASAP. Like,
Yeah, it's one of the things that I've observed is that you're young, you have no real power, authority, you're still under your parents' roof. A lot of times, you've got nowhere to go. Uh, it's just a really feeling stuck is the cause of well, contributes to a lot of depression and anxiety and such in the world in general, around us. And I always feel for all the young people who are, awake at 12 or whatever, and they're stuck in this thing because it's just psychologically very hard. I mean, you're already referenced being depressed and such. Yeah, I mean, this isn't gonna make it any better. And it's just so tough. Also, can I ask, was knowing, even if you maybe, I don't know, maybe this isn't the right way to put it, but even if you didn't always acknowledge it internally, maybe knowing that you were gay, did that contribute to the depression as well? Was that part of maybe some of the internal feelings that you had for so long because you knew that you were someone that, well, the very thing that you're attached to and that those around you are attached to can't really love?
yeah, I'd say it definitely contributed to it, especially when I more so came to accept that I was gay and realize I was gay. Because it was like 13, 14, I started to be like, okay, I'm gay. but I didn't necessarily accept what that meant. I was like, I can still marry a woman and be happy for the rest of my life. And then it was 15, 16, like I started to really accept what that meant for me. So I'd say it definitely had an impact on me and an impact on my depression, to realize that there was this part of me that no matter what, was never going to be accepted, no matter if I stayed in the religion or left the religion, no matter what path I took. It wasn't going to be accepted by the people I was around. But yeah, it didn't really bother me until I would say I realized what being gay fully entailed for me, when I was like 15 or 16.
Yeah. Like you said, accepting it and accepting what that meant for you. So how did you then move on? So I mean, my goodness, as if being a teenager isn't hard enough and you don't have enough things to think about and there's not enough changes going on in the world around you and internally. And, you know, you're going to seek your own independence at 18-ish or whatever. So what was your path? How'd you handle all of this? How did it, I guess, culminate in your eventual leaving?
Yeah. So basically, it all starts the summer before my freshman year of high school. I went to Australia to visit family down there. I spent 5 weeks in Australia, and had an amazing time. And that really kind of put the nail in the coffin of like, okay, I really do not believe in this religion, and I do not want to live my life as one of Jehovah's Witnesses. However, I also recognized that I would have more financial opportunities if I were to stay in the organization and stay at home and live with my parents for a few years instead of moving out at 18. So I went to Australia, loved it, loved traveling. It was my first time ever leaving the country. So I realized, okay, I want to travel. That's what I want to do. So I was like, I'm going to stay at my parents' place and I'm going to fade, just try to slowly stop going to meetings, slowly stop going out on service, and not, fully exit, but not fully be a part of it either. And hopefully that would work. Um, my plan was to stay with my parents, save some money, and travel. I'm 2 weeks into me getting back from Australia. I got into a fight with my dad, over something stupid. Like, I think it was he wanted me to help a family in the congregation move, but I had work earlier that day, and then I had homework I needed to do. So I was like, I'm busy, like I really can't. And he was like, no, you really need to like help them move. You need to like step up in the congregation and be that person. And so we got into a big
You were
fight.
disfellowshipped at the time father was telling you this?
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. He was trying to get back into the organization at that time, but
But it's going to look good for him if his son is out there doing things.
exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
So yeah, he was definitely pushing it. And we just got into a yelling match. And eventually, I agreed that I would go. So my mom, my brother, and I all went. And I was just bawling in the car over there. And my mom was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "Nothing." And she's like, "No, what's wrong?" And I just said, "You're never going to love me." And she was like, "Why?" And I just said, "Because I'm gay." Um, I had no intention of coming out at that time. I did not want to come out. It was very spur of the moment, just in the heat of emotion, that I said this to her. And she was like, "How do you know?" And I was like, "I've just told." And that was that. The rest of the car ride was silence. We helped her move. And then a week went by and nothing was said of it. And I'm like, this is really odd. Like, I just came out to my parents as gay. This is something that I thought was going to be a huge deal, and they haven't even brought it up once. So I remember asking a coworker who was gay at the time, like, what should I do? Like, should I bring it up again with them or what? And he's like, yeah, I think I would too. So I brought it up again with my mom, like, hey, like, I told you this, and I haven't been like heard anything from y'all about it. It's like, what do you think? Like, what's your stance on it? And she was like, oh, well, my dad, your father and I, we spoke, and there's lots of gay people in the organization who are able to hide it or able to not act upon it. So that's what we would expect you to do too.
So we decided for you that this is
Yeah,
how it's going to go. And of course it will, because we're the parents.
exactly. And it's, no big deal. We'll just,
It has been stated.
yeah, we'll just get rid of the person you love for the rest of your life. And you don't get to have that experience, and there was a person in my congregation who was gay, and very flamboyant, but was no longer acting on it. So I think she really was kind of like, she had an example of somebody who stayed in the congregation even though they were gay. So she thought I could do the same thing. I just told her, like, that's incredibly unfair. So by this time, like, they had already known that I didn't believe in the organization. That was something I told them like a year before I came out as gay. But it was something where they didn't really take me seriously when I told them. And they were like, oh, you'll just kind of grow out of it. Like, you'll come to exactly. You'll come to your right mind someday. And yeah, after I came out as gay, the house got like really hostile. Like, it wasn't hostile before I came out as rather after I came out as an atheist. Like, they stopped paying for my bassoon lessons after I came out as an atheist. And I stopped like kind of inviting me to family functions. Like, I would be at work and they'd be at dinner and not even like offer to get me anything or something. Just like little things where it was like I was like not necessarily included in the family anymore.
Well, you're not a person now, right?
Right. Now that I don't believe in Jehovah. And then me coming out as gay really just kind of made it go 0 to 100. It went from more so of a gentle try to coach him back into the organization to, hey, you need to get it the fuck together. Like, you are completely acting out and this is not how you are supposed to behave. Like, my father thought I was possessed. He literally threw like a Bible at me and was just like, you need to read it. Like, you need to get with God. There were nights where my parents were just yelling and yelling and yelling just about me. And I remember being in the basement, just like listening to the conversations. My dad was like, he's just so embarrassing to be around. Like, I can't stand being seen in him singing with them out in public. Like, I can't stand sitting next to him at the congregation with his haircut and his tight pants. Like, so gay, blah, blah, blah. There were just nights where like I didn't feel safe even in my own home. So then I realized that I would need to leave. There was no longer a path for me to fade and stay there.
It's not safe.
Exactly. Yeah, so I talked to a few people at work about it and word spread. And a coworker approached me and was like, hey, I heard about what's going on with your family. I have a basement if you're wanting to rent from me. So I rented her basement. I moved out as soon as I turned 18. I wasn't disfellowshipped at the time. No wrongdoing was ever committed. Um, I never slept with a guy. I never did anything devious like that. I never drank, never did drugs or alcohol. Um, I was a square. Like I was definitely very much so. Even when I didn't believe in the religion, I wasn't a rebellious teenager and getting myself in trouble per se. Um, so I left, still a part of the congregation, but I just stopped going and stopped going out in service fully. And that's when the elders wanted to meet with me eventually, to see what's going on and see where I was at. And I was just like, hey, I don't have time. I don't want to meet with you. I'm really busy. And they're like, no, we need to meet with you. And they would show it to my home like unannounced. And thankfully, like my roommates had my back. It would be like, yeah, he's not home or whatever. So they were super cool. Um, but it got to a point where they're like, hey, you need to come in for a judicial committee or you will be disfellowshipped. So at that point, like the writing was on the wall. Um, so I went in for the judicial committee. It was really, really awkward because it was three elders that we were super close to as a family. Like one of them was an old neighbor, one of them was a close family friend, and the other was somebody who we would run to when our father was really abusive sometimes as a teenager, and we would run to their house. So like these are three people that were really I was really close to. And then just started asking me like really inappropriate questions about my life, like, do you like it up the butt? Like, why don't you like breasts? Like things like that. And it's just like,
Really?
yeah, I just remember being like, this is none of your business. Like, this has nothing to do with why I'm being called here. Um, and I remember asking them, like, what are you disfellowshipping me for? Because I didn't do anything wrong. And they're like, oh, well, we're disfellowshipping you for not denouncing an unmarried couple. Because my roommates at the time were a unmarried couple. And they're like, every time you enter and exit that house as one of Jehovah's Witnesses, you are essentially saying to the world that Jehovah's Witnesses approve of fornication and adultery and sex outside of marriage. And that is just something that we cannot allow. And they're like, you need to denounce them and move out if you want to stay. That's what Jehovah's Witnesses. And I was like, you knew my living situation before I moved out. You knew where I was going to move to, and everything. One of the elders that was a close family friend, he knew all this. He knew that I was moving in with an unmarried couple, and he did not say jack shit about it. So I was like, you all of a sudden now have a problem. So it just escalated to where they were like, yeah, we are going to disfellowship you for not denouncing adultery, basically. And that was that. It was interesting because my father, he offered me a ride there. I didn't own a car, so he offered me a ride there, but he didn't offer me a ride back. I took an Uber
He
back.
left you there?
Yeah, it was very much so like they kind of knew, I think, how it would go.
Well, I
And
mean,
we're like,
there's that aspect, but there's just I mean, that's fucking gross.
yeah,
It's the way that they won't, like, the elders won't pray for you after they disfellowship you. Like they'll pray at the beginning of the judicial committee or whatever, and then once they disfellowship you, you're just like abandoned to Satan, and you're just like this non-person. And then for your own dad to take you there and to not at least take you home or whatever. I mean, dude. That's just
yeah,
gross. That's horrible. I'm sorry.
yeah. It was definitely pretty eye opening when it came to like, oh, this is how you guys view me
This is how
now.
much I mean to you.
Yeah, exactly. So I just remember bawling in the Uber ride home, just like it was such a
Well,
mess.
yeah.
And then I text my parents letting them know how it went. And they're like, okay, we'll get back to you. And then a week passes by. Apparently, they love to do things in business days. Like my parents take weeks to get back to me for the simplest thing. I'm like, you can't just talk it through and get back to me within an hour. But anyway, a week comes by and my dad gets me a phone call. He's like, yeah, so we thought it through and we want nothing to do with you anymore. There's to be no contact between us moving forward. If you need to get in contact with us, you are to get a notarized letter and send it via mail. There's no other way to get into contact with us. He was very adamant about that. And I remember just being like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Because I was expecting for them to be like, hey, like, there's going to be no contact moving forward. But then for him to like add on top of that, you need to get a notary if you want to be in contact with us. I was just like, oh, okay, so this is really, really how you view me. Um, so yeah, that was that. The night before it was announced, we went to dinner, did the traditional JW goodbye before somebody's disfellowshipped. It was the most awkward dinner in my life. Like it was silent, like the entire time. Like nobody really had anything to say to each other. And my mother took me back to my place, and we hugged goodbye, and I was just bawling. So yeah, that's kind of how that led from me waking up to me officially leaving.
Oh, I'm so angry for you and so sad for you. And you deserve so much better than that. Your
Thank you.
parents completely failed as parents. And that is, wow. It's just, you have to s- contact me via notary. Dad, dude, you were disfellowship my whole life. Like, what the hell?
Exactly.
Like, what is
Yeah.
this? Um, Amazing how self-righteous one can be, while sometimes trying to, protest because they're disfellowshipped or they feel their own shame, so they've gotta make it worse on you, you know what I'm saying? Like, they've got to project like you're even worse so that they feel less shame for who they are. They're using you in that
Exactly.
way, and that's very sad. Your parents don't deserve you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's definitely their loss, and it's
It is.
been taken some time to like
But
reframe it as that. But yeah.
well, I think we've seen through some of what you said that they and look, I mean, I didn't even know you or meet you until this conversation. But I work with Jehovah's Witnesses every day in my coaching practice, and I've interviewed hundreds, and our parents can't love us because not because there's somehow like evil necessarily. They don't know what love is. They think control is love. They think that emotional extortion is love. They don't even know what love is, so they can't give it. They've not experienced it. They don't have it. They just don't know how. They can't
Yeah.
accept anybody who's not like them. It's like the Greek myth of Narcissus. Narcissus falls in love with his own reflection. That's Jehovah's Witnesses. If you don't reflect back to them who they are, they can't love you. They they need you to be them. That's the only way they can care.
Yep.
It's
Yeah.
it's just it's awful, and it's unfortunately not just Jehovah's Witnesses either. It's just a human thing. Um, I'm so sorry that that's how that all went down. I mean, way to make everything worse.
Yeah.
You know, bad enough. They made it worse. Um, so then I guess so that how old were you when you got disfellowshipped?
I was 18.
18, and you're 26 today. So
Yep.
8 years since. Have you all had conversations at all, or has it been total silence?
There has been some conversations.
Through a notary?
Mainly, thankfully, thankfully they went back on that. I was able to text them, but the first time so basically I worked at Starbucks at the time, and my mom would come through every once in a while after I was disfellowshipped. I think it was kind of her way of seeing me legally, it's per se, you know what I mean, within the
Sure,
realms
it's
of
an excuse to
what's
see if she
allowed.
does care.
Exactly. Um, so it was always awkward and just kind of like hi bye type of thing. Um, and then in 2019, so this was 2 to 3 years after I was disfellowshipped, I was contacted by my parents' lawyer, because they have a medical malpractice suit, because my dad had some surgery that they messed up on real big, and he's permanently disabled from it. So they wanted me to testify, and their lawyer was like, "Hey, like I know you are no longer a part of the family. I feel as if your testimony would hold a lot of weight with the jury since you're not, somebody who is just there to sway the jury on the side of your parents. You're somebody who can potentially provide impartial evidence of like what had happened and everything." So I ended up going to court for them, in 2019, and I saw both of them for the first time. That was the first time I saw my. Oh no, that wasn't the first time I saw my dad actually. But I saw both of them there. That was hard. I remember like just leaving the courtroom crying. But before that, my grandfather had died, in 2018. So this was a year and a half after I was disfellowshipped. And I was fully expecting to like not to be able to ever say goodbye to anybody who was going to die. Like I just kind of processed everything as a death. But thankfully they reached out to me and were like, "Hey, like he's on hospice. Like, do you want to come say goodbye?" So I was able to come say goodbye and everything, which I was grateful for. The one thing I was not pleased with is they were like, "Oh no, we're not going to do a funeral for him," because he lived all around the United States his entire life, and never necessarily had a centralized group of people who would, I guess, show up for a funeral. So they were like, "Well, yeah, we're not going to do a funeral for him." And then I went and left to China, and they did a funeral without telling me. And I was like, "Oh, okay, so that's what that was all about. That makes sense." But yeah, kind of lost my train of thought there again and forgot what the question was.
Oh,
But
no,
yeah,
I can understand why you lose your train of thought because that's messed up. I mean, look, I don't want to couch any of this as right or wrong. We all have to make our personal decisions as to how we show up or don't show up in these various situations. We have different experiences. You were grateful for your opportunity, to meet at hospice. I had an opportunity. Was grateful for it momentarily, but I would not do it again. We all have our different experiences, and it's not a matter of right or wrong. Feel how we feel, but like you showed up for those people at this trial to help people who wouldn't even who waited till you were gone or wouldn't invite you to your grandfather's memorial or whatever, who weren't honest with you about that, and I just see so many examples of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who do things for their witness family that their witness family wouldn't ever do for them. They wouldn't
yeah.
piss on you if you were on fire, in a lot of cases. And it's just, obviously, again, so I'm not saying that what you did was wrong. You have to, you do what you do for your reasons. It's not right or wrong. Um, but it's just so awful how they treat people. I hate necessary family business. That whole concept is just exploitative. It's there's something wrong, and so now we're going to reach out to you as the witness, and we're going to let you know that something is wrong, and here's some pain that we're going to throw at you. Someone has died, someone is sick, someone is dying, whatever. We're going to throw that at you, and then again, as witnesses do, we're going to try to exploit that emotion and that vulnerability in some way. And it's just all about them, and it's absolutely disgusting, and it's just so
Yeah.
gross. And I'm sorry that, again, I'm just you and everyone else that I've ever worked with, we all deserve so much better. None of this is okay. It's just not right.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a situation where I feel as if I lost what I was going to say. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. You just, yeah, sometimes it's hard to know what to say too.
Yeah.
you know, because this is heavy stuff, and I'm just I just sit in front of so many people who are really nice, cool people, lovely people who have been hurt by people that were tasked with loving them from the moment they were born, and were failed by those people. And it's just it sucks to watch. It's it sucks to watch so
Yeah.
many people get hurt by them, and there's just no shame on their part. Like, they'll just do it again, and they'll do it again, and they'll do it again as long as we allow them to. It's just awful. So I'm glad that, I appreciated what you said earlier about like processing it all as a death, but you kind of have to do sometimes for your own sanity, is just to let them all go. Uh, they've all died. They've all gone off the edge in a bus together, and that was of their own choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I was going to say actually is I always kind of say to people that as an ex Jehovah's Witness, you experience every normal trauma that a person would experience twice in life.
Sure.
Like when it comes to death, like when you're disfellowshipped, it is a death. It is a physical death of your life and of your relationship with these people. And then as you age, you're going to be hearing about, your grandmother dying, your mother dying, your aunt, uncle, this and that, cousin dying, things like that. And you not being able to be there for their final years is definitely, it hurts. But yeah, I definitely feel as if you experience all of the loss in life kind of twice.
Yeah, and it does, like you said, it does hurt. Grief is something you take with you throughout your life, and you learn to manage it as you go, and you get better at doing so. But it's just tough. Um, it's just it's a unique situation in a lot of ways. Very unique
Hmm.
situation. I always tell people it's like my whole family went off the edge of a cliff on a bus, and I walk to the edge of that cliff, and I look over, but they've all just decided to live down there now. Like, they've all just gone somewhere I can't get to, and they've all just decided, hey, let's just stay down here. We don't care about anybody else left behind. It's just the way witnesses are. They just kind of they go off. Witnesses are all about witnesses. They're in love with some witnesses themselves, that reflection again, and they just want to do what they want to do, and it's all about them and their feelings. There's no real acknowledgement of yours. I mean, just like you telling your mom, coming out to your mom, and then not saying, she didn't say anything. Like, okay, first of all, that's awful. Second of all, you had to go to her to get some sort of acknowledgement. And third, her and your dad had talked about it. They just didn't decide to tell you. Like,
Yeah.
come on, man. Like, see somebody else. Have some empathy for once in your life. It's just, they just don't see other people. They are blind.
Yeah, no kidding. That's for sure.
Which also, something doesn't have to be personal for it to have personal impact. And it just kind of goes to show like, this isn't personally about us. They don't, this is just how they would be with anyone. This is about them and who they are and how they are. It's not because we somehow are specially deserving of this treatment. This is all about them. It's always been all about them and how they feel and move throughout the world. And so shunning is an act. It's something a person does to another, and that's on them.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. I think it's hard to have that mindset, but it's definitely true.
Yeah, yeah. Um, well, so have you continued? So 8 years since you were disfellowshipped. Well, I guess so. Let me ask. So how'd you start building a life after that at 18? I mean, you're very young and you've got,
Yeah.
starting from not just ground zero, but I don't know, below the ground. You're bringing all this trauma and all this pain into trying to survive.
Yeah, I was really grateful that I had a job at the time, and a job that cared, and had coworkers that understood my situation and everything. I'd say without it, I would be in a completely different space. I would probably ended up homeless. Um, so I'm very grateful for how things worked out. It could have been a lot worse. Uh, in fact, like it worked out so well that I had already had a pre-planned trip to Europe for the week after I was disfellowshipped. This happened to coincide that I got this fellowship, and then the next Monday I was on a plane to Copenhagen. So I was able to take some time off, travel, decompress, and that really helped me reframe things and helped me step away from my depression and grief that I was experiencing. But the next few years were really dark. I coped with weed. I was smoking every day. That was kind of my outlet. Um, but yeah, I really tried to not lose focus of why I left, and that was to be who I am as a person and truly be me in the most authentic way possible. So, um, like I just started living my life as gay as I can, honestly, as outwardly as I can, um, and started to build some relationships with the people I worked with. Started to get some really good friendships going, friendships that I have to this day still. So yeah, it took a lot of time, a lot of therapy. I started therapy a year after I left. I'm still in therapy. Um, in fact, it got to the point back in 2023, so 2 years ago, I had like a huge mental breakdown, just from, I feel like the religion, it just kept on snowballing and snowballing and snowballing, and it was never truly addressing my grief, to where like 5 years after I had left, I had a complete breakdown and I had to take 2 years off of work, and I checked myself into a mental institution and was there for a year, in California, where I just learned how to live again, learned how to be myself again, learned how to be a normal person. So it was a lot of outside help, a lot of therapy, but a lot of also making my own path and really just building relationships with people that were around me to find any source of comfort, and to really ultimately guess, continually disprove the notion that worldly people are scary and inherently dangerous, because that's part of the doctrine that I feel as if my body still carries with me in a way. Like my mind doesn't carry it. Like I don't believe that, but like my body
I've used the sword,
sometimes.
yes.
Exactly. So yeah, that's kind of how I've dealt with it in a way.
I healing from this, as I tell people all the time, is it's a journey, not an event. It takes time. It's a process. I I end up working I end up working with a lot of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses who often also have therapists, and it's interesting because just in conversations that we'll have in session, it's like, "Oh yeah, I was just talking with my therapist about that," but the therapist can't address some sort of part of it that is coming from the cult because they don't know and they can't see what's behind that thing. And we end up I've unknowingly tag teamed a lot of people with their therapist, just in like having those conversations and like talking about things. And it is a path, and it's gonna have its ups and downs, and there's gonna be new triggers at times, or something that happens that brings up a memory, or whatever the case may be. And it's okay. It's okay to take time to heal. It's not a race. And if you try to run too fast, you're going to run right past some things that maybe you needed to pick up along the way. So I'm glad that you've been so involved in your own healing and have been reaching out for that, because it's um, most of the things that we are dealing with are things that came through relation with other people, through these relationships. And it often takes those relationships therapeutically on the outside in order to work through those things. And to learn that not only are the worldly people, in quotes, safe, but also learning how to feel safe in your own body and to love yourself and to be like, hey, you know what? Even if someone's unsafe, I got me. I'm okay. I'll take care of this. I know that I can show up for myself even if somebody else can't in the moment. And it's learning how to do all of that kind of stuff that we were just never taught to love ourselves or care about ourselves. They taught us to hate ourselves.
Yeah.
Disown yourself, lead yourself like a slave for Jehovah. It's horrible. It's just all the worst messaging. It really is. So I'm glad that you're involved in trying to heal and move forward. I even doing this today, I'm glad that you're using your voice. You're showing up for yourself today. Good for you, Jake.
Yeah. Thank you.
Is there anything that you would say if you had the opportunity to anyone who shuns you?
I would just say that the door is always open. That's the one thing that has always bothered me with Jehovah's Witnesses is they twist it to make it seem as if you're the one leaving the faith and you're the one that's making all these decisions to no longer be a part of the family and everything. And I know in their heart of hearts that they know that if it were my way, they'd still be in my life, you know, even though I had a traumatic childhood with my father, like I'd still like a relationship with him ultimately. Like, um, so I guess I would say just the door is always open. I'm always willing to talk. I'm always willing to reconnect. I don't hold things over people. I definitely understand that, it's a cult and it really grabs people by their teeth, and it's hard to escape. And um, like I just think about like the sunk cost analogy
Mhm.
of my parents are nearing the end of their lives. They're in their 60s and getting close to their 70s. And they've spent their entire lives invested in this thing, whereas I spent, just the first 16 years of my life invested in this thing, to where it's going to be easier for me to step away from that investment than it would be for somebody who's invested almost everything. So I get it. Like, I don't hold things over people. I don't necessarily blame anybody for anything. And yeah, the door is always open.
Well, if anyone ever decides to run through that door, I hope the first words through their mouth are out of their mouth are, "I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
You know, because man, did not do well as parents. And at the end of the day, forgiveness can be given if people are willing to change and own things. And but we never know what'll happen. Uh, is there anything any resources or anything that you've used after leaving? You mentioned seeing some apostate things or whatever. Like, did you have channels or anything that you watched, or podcasts or whatever?
The exjw subreddit was huge for me when I was leaving. Yeah, I spent a lot of time there, posting or just reading about other people's experiences. Lloyd Evans was somebody who I watched for a little while. Recently, I've been involved with the Open Minds Foundation and the Stop Mandated Shunning movement. I've been working with them. I lead their TikTok page. We're trying to, get stories together, people who have been shunned from not just Jehovah's Witnesses, but other faiths as well, and get it in front of courts across the world. Right now in Norway, there was a case against the Norwegian federal courts for upholding the religious status. And the Jehovah's Witnesses did win, but the state is appealing, so they're still
at least the Supreme Court, right?
Yeah, exactly. So, and then from there, if that doesn't work out, I think it would move up to the European Court of Human Rights, which would be huge. So, I'm working with them. They've been a huge help and a huge. It's just a nice way to like spend your energy, knowing that you're doing something that's productive and helping people. So, yeah.
Good for you. So that's one part of your life now on the outside and more current. What do you I always try to finish on a high note. What do you like about your life since leaving? What do you enjoy? What's good in Jake's world? If you'd like some extra content, if you'd like to learn more about our guests today, maybe even have an opportunity to connect further with them, you can do so by joining the Back Room tier at patreon.com/shunned.
Yeah, I mean, definitely my freedom is one thing I value, especially when it comes to, education. Like, I wasn't allowed to dream. And I think that's something a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses can relate to. Like, you're just not allowed to dream because...
The dream was provided for you.
Exactly. It's the paradise earth. Yeah. So now that I am able to dream and able to think about, what do I want to do in the world? I'm able to like shape my education and my life path towards that. So like right now I'm getting my degree in sociology, my associates in sociology. And then from there, I plan to get my bachelor's in PPLE, which is politics, philosophy, law, and economics. It's an interdisciplinary course. And then I want to get my master's in international relations. And I want to eventually move into politics, whether or not that's directly with politics or working with political organizations. We'll see. But yeah, I'd say my freedom, and freedom around education is huge to me because I really value education. And that's just something that wasn't valued at all, growing up. You're not supposed to have any hopes of going to college. So now that I am able to dream and have these goals for myself, it's nice to work towards them and see them come to life slowly but surely.
Well, that's awesome. I'm glad that you're able. I mean, even just the freedom to pursue the things that we want is a beautiful,
Hmm.
beautiful thing. And so I'm glad that you're able to do that, and to you get to decide what kind of life that you want to have, and you get to go for it. And at least here in the States, we have opportunities to pursue various things. In some countries, that may be more limited by various things. But so then the onus is on those of us who have the freedom. Let's use it and do something cool with it. So I hope you get to do that someday. I hope someday I get to hear that. I don't know. You did something politically. Um, whether it's internationally or whatever the case may be. It sounds like you have a heart to help in your own way.
Yeah, well, yeah. We'll see how it goes, but that's what I'm looking towards. So
All right. Well, thank you so much for telling your story, Jake. Appreciate it.
yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
If you want to tell your story on the podcast, buy merch, or get more information, go to shunpodcast.com.